Hey, what's going on, guys? Got another video for you on this 2012 Ford Focus. Going to be replacing the inner and outer tie rod ends. So I'm going to go ahead and start out on the driver's side here. So we're going to have to jack it up, get our front tire off here. So I'm going to place my jack right underneath this pinch weld here. You can see this arrow, and then give us enough room to get our jack stand right next to that. So lift it up just enough to get your tire off the ground. Grab your jack stand. I'm going to go right about there. Go ahead and lower it and get our jack out of the way. Grab a 19mm, go ahead and remove your lug nuts and your wheel and tire. Okay guys, so with your wheel and tire out of the way, that gives us access to the, this is going to be your outer tie rod end right along here, and this is going to be your inner, which we'll be replacing both. So what we need to do first is go ahead and loosen up this jam nut or lock nut, and that's going to be a 24mm, or you can use a crescent wrench, will work just fine. And then you also take a 15mm, and we're going to put our 15mm right on here to kind of hold this inner tie rod in from spinning. So go ahead and get your 15mm, and you can usually just get it kind of in place underneath here, and that'll kind of hold it right there, your control arm. And what we want to do is actually go to the right instead of to the left, because we want this jam nut to go upwards. So it's going to be the opposite since we're on the driver's side. So then get your wrench on here, and these can be on there pretty tight. So try and hold with one hand and try and break this free. So kind of like that. And just try and spin that a little more, and just to make sure that's free. And just like that. Next, go ahead and take that 15mm, and let's go ahead and take off this nut for your tie rod end here. Break that free. And you can just go ahead and pull that off all the way here. And then what you want to do next is take you a sledgehammer, and you can hit right here on the side to vibrate this loose. Or since we're replacing this, we don't really care about the threads, we can hit right on top here. You want to just separate that from the steering knuckle. So go ahead and do that. So just like that. Alright guys, so as you saw, this tie rod end, the inner one just kind of flops around, so that's the reason we're replacing it. Shouldn't do that, should have a little tension on that, and you got to force it to kind of move around. So what we're going to do next is remove this outer tie rod end, and I haven't touched this yet since we separated it, so it was just sitting up there. It would have went up in there like that. But what you want to do is you're going to count how many times this goes around until we get it off, because we're going to put the new one on the same way. That way our alignment's not way off. Even though we're going to get an alignment done after this, you always want to do that after replacing tie rod ends. We just want to get it close so it's not way off. So what you do is it's going to sit on there like that. So you're going to count. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and right there. So we're going to say 20 and a half turns. So we're going to start the new one just like that, upside down. So just remember 20 and a half turns. So next we need to remove this lock nut here, because we will be reusing this boot. The inner tie rod did not come with a new boot, And in order to get that boot off, we need to remove this lock nut. And you can just take you some WD-40 or PB Blaster, just kind of spray this. Maybe help loosen this up some, because it's kind of hard to get off of here. And then if you got a 24mm socket wrench, that might help a little easier. If not, you'll just have to use your wrench. And then just get your 15mm in there again. See if this can just kind of hold that while you try and spin this off of here. It's not working too well. Like I said, it's so rusted on there that it's going to take you a minute to get that off. Okay, so finally get that off of there. Like I said, it takes you a while because it's just so rusted and everything else on there. Okay, so what we need to do next is release this band clamp that goes around the boot there. And to do that, you're just going to take a long flathead screwdriver and you're going to want to try to get in here, or you're going to get into that little groove there, and you're just going to kind of turn, and it should pop itself off or open. So get into that little groove and then just kind of turn it. You may have to try it a few times. And it should just pop right off. There you go. So go ahead and take this clamp. You can see it just kind of, like I said, if you get into this little groove here and you just kind of turn your screwdriver, it'll pop this up and unlatch it. And then we'll go ahead and release this clip right here. So grab yourself some pliers or something to release this little clip here. Squeeze those together. Then you can pull that off. And so next what you want to do is we're going to pull the boot off. So you can kind of just pull right here. It should pop off a little bit. You see it kind of moving there. And then get more back in here. Try to grab a hold of it. You can see it popped off back there. And you can just continue to pull this off here. So you get it all the way off, just like that. And then as you can see, that's what it looks like. Like I said, it's just all the grease isn't really working too well, holding it in place, and it's just wore out. All right guys, so to get that inner tie rod off, you will need a special tool. It's called a inner tie rod end removal and install tool. This one here, I just have laying around. It's actually from Harbor Freight. It's really cheap. Or the best thing you can do is just go to AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Advanced Auto Parts. You can rent these tools for free with their loaner program, and you can just take it back when you're done. But if you take a look, this is what it looks like. So you got a bunch of different sizes that will fit onto the inner tie rod there. And then you use this, and this these kind of slide into here, and it latches on there, and then we can go ahead and unscrew that off. And the one you want to use is actually this one here, which is a 33.6mm. So let's go ahead and I'll show you how to use it. So first thing you'll want to do is take that 33.6mm adapter here, and this is going to go around. So you got these little slots. There's a slot right here and then one on the bottom where this will slide onto. So you kind of stick this in there. So kind of like that, and it may not slide easily like that, so you may just have to really use some pressure or use a pry bar and just kind of slide it on there. But once you get it into place just like that, let me grab my adapter tool here and kind of move my camera so I got enough room to do this. So what you'll do is grab this tool here. You're going to slide this through the inner tie rod, and then you're going to line up those with those little notches on those clips there. So get it on there, it's kind of like that. And then what you're going to do is take a 1/2-inch ratchet, and we're going to go ahead and loosen this up. And this might be on there pretty tight because they're usually you want to use Loctite on these. So go ahead and break that free. And I think that broke loose. Let's see. Yep. So then just go ahead and unscrew this the rest of the way off. And there's our inner tie rod. And you notice this green piece here, you want to save this because we're going to transfer that over to the new one. Because what that does is you can see this will slide onto here like that. And this green thing here prevents this this little piece here from sliding in, going off inward like that. So you want to make sure you transfer this over to your new one. And then also, if you notice, so there is like almost like a rubber band or a little rubber O-ring that goes around that portion there. So just make sure that stays on there, or push it back on, because that's going to go, your boot's going to go over that. Just make sure you kind of push this back on. Just kind of like that. Okay guys, let's go ahead and take a look at our new parts here. So I went ahead and went with the Moog for the inner and outer tie rods. I got all 4 of these off of Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for them. They're really cheap on Amazon. And for the inner tie rod, it's going to be that part number, and it's going to be the exact same part number for both sides. And if you take a look here, you can pull this off. You can see it comes with new Loctite on the threads already. And then you can't even move this one around. It's so tight compared to the old one that just flops around. And then it does include a new lock nut. And if you take a look here, you can see it measures up to be the same size. And then for our outer tie rod ends, these are going to be 2 separate part numbers. So your driver's side, the left side, is going to be that part number. And then the passenger right side is going to be that part number. And if you take a look on here, you can see the old one even has the L, and then the L for the left side on the new one. And then if you take a look, these are going to measure up to be the same size. And if you notice, it does come with a new castle nut, and then these are greasable. So we'll put our grease zerk in, and then it comes with a cotter key as well. So let's go ahead and get these in. So go ahead and grab your new inner tie rod. And then, like I said, don't forget this little green piece here. This is going to go sit right on top of that. And then we'll go ahead and just start screwing this in. So go ahead and turn that in by hand here. Until it kind of stops. And we will be torquing this. But next, just go ahead and grab your little 33.6 millimeter adapter here. Go ahead and get that slid on to place. Kind of like that. And then you can go ahead and grab your tool here, slide that on. Get that into place. And if you see, that kind of fell off of there, so let's try this side. So get this back into place here. Kind of like that. Let's go ahead and try this again. So get that on there, and then I'm just going to kind of turn this by hand a little more, makes it a little easier. Till it stops. Let me zoom out here and grab my torque wrench. So then grab your torque wrench and you're going to torque that to 50 foot-pounds. Put that on there. Just like that. Go ahead and get this off of here. Okay guys, so since the new inner tie rod doesn't come with a clamp, what I found to work the best is just using an old worm clamp or hose clamp. You can also use a zip tie, but the zip ties over time, they're just going to fail since they're just plastic. So I think the hose clamp works the best. And it looks like this is a 2 3/4 hose clamp. Is going to fit this just fine. And what you kind of want to do is just kind of get this to where it should be. So just start turning this in to where you kind of get it lined up here. So something kind of like that. But you can see it fits in there just perfect, and it hits right up against this edge here. But for right now, I'm going to loosen this just a little more because I'm not going to put that on there yet. I'm going to go ahead and slide this on from this side. I want to make sure I get this on, seated on there perfectly first. So go ahead and take your boot here. Yeah, let's get that stuck on here. And again, make sure that it's almost like a little gasket is around that portion before you slide this all the way on. So then just kind of work this on there. You have to push this in some. And then you can kind of reach your hand in here just to feel. You want to make sure you're fully seated on there, because you do not want water getting in there. Okay. So it looks like we're fully seated back on there. So next, go ahead and grab your hose clamp here, and you want to position this to where it's going to be easiest to tighten it up. So I'm thinking either like this, so it's sitting in there, I can tighten it, reach around in there and tighten it, or I think like this might work better. So go ahead and slide this on. You may need to reach your other hand in here, kind of get that into the position it should be in. You can move this if you need to. So I'm thinking something kind of right there like that. That should work just fine. So let me grab a 8mm and we'll go ahead and tighten that up. Okay guys, so not sure how well you can see this or not, but you can use a 8mm wrench, socket, whatever you can fit in here, screwdriver if you got a flathead. And let's just go ahead and see if we can kind of tighten this up here without moving it too much. Oh, you can see it kind of slipped off there. So you may have to take your other hand here, get it in there. Make sure it stays in the position until you get it somewhat tightened. So kind of like that. And it kind of moved on me, so let me bring it up just a little bit. So kind of like that. So go ahead and tighten this up. Once you kind of get it snug, Then you can take your socket or your wrench, get on there and crank on it a little more. Yeah, there's not enough room for that one. So let's just try this open end wrench here. And like I said, you can use the zip tie if you want, but I have a feeling that'll just fail after a certain amount of time, especially if you live in winter weather. So get that pretty snug. I think this screwdriver is going to work better. Okay, so kind of like that. And then just you can just kind of pull on it. You just want to make sure that ain't going to come off. So I think we're good like that. Next, go ahead and take your little clip here for the outside part of your boot. And then you want to make sure this just kind of fell into place. So there's a kind of a lip right there. You want to make sure that dropped down onto there. So get your clip back into place here. Get your pair of pliers. Go ahead and get that around there, just like that. And then what I like to do before we get our lock nut into place, just take you some anti-seize and go ahead and coat these threads in anti-seize. Just going to make it so much easier to screw on, and then also for the alignment guy, he'll thank you for this. Just makes it a lot easier to adjust the alignment. So get those covered, grab your nut, and go ahead and screw that on. And I like to just go all the way to the end. Plus it just works that anti-seize into all these threads. So just kind of like that. And then you go ahead and grab your new tie rod end. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this grease zerk in first, just to make it a little easier. So you gotta kind of just get it started. It's not going to fully screw in there because it kind of self-taps itself in there. So get it somewhat started, and if you grab a 7mm socket, it should screw right down in there. So take that, go ahead and screw that in. And just kind of, you'll see it kind of bottom out there. That should be good right there. All right, guys, so if you remember, it was 20.5 turns is what we got out of the old one, and it fell off sitting like this. So we're going to start it just like this, and then we're going to turn this 20.5 turns. So start it out right there like that. So we'll go, there's our half. So now we'll go ahead and do 20 turns. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So right there. And then you can take this nut, and you're going to want to unscrew that till it comes pressed up against the new tie rod end. So just kind of like that for now, and then we'll tighten it at the end. And then what you want to do is just go ahead and bring over your steering knuckle here. You can bring this down. You may need to move this tie rod just a little bit. Get that kind of pressed up in there, like that. Grab your new castle nut. Go ahead and get that kind of started on there. And then this is going to be a 17 millimeter compared to the 15 millimeter that was on there. So go ahead and get this kind of tightened, and then we'll do a final torque on it as well. So you want to just kind of get it up there into place a little bit. Probably about like that. Let me grab my torque wrench. And then grab your torque wrench, and you're going to torque that to 35 foot-pounds. So what you want to do next is grab your cotter key, and you're going to slide this through. But if you notice, we're sitting right on top of the castle nut here. So you can see you got these little grooves, and you want this round portion here to sit inside in one of those grooves. So what we need to do is just tighten this up just a little more to get this opening right here kind of just right in here. You always want to tighten, you never want to loosen. So let me just tighten that up just a little more. Maybe a hair more. Let's try that. So if you notice, you can see now this portion isn't hidden on the tops of that. So just kind of like that, and then what you want to do, get that into position there, and then just take this top tab here, bend this back, and then you can do the same to the other one, just like that. So what we want to do next is let's go ahead and make sure this lock nut is all the way tight up against the tie rod end. So grab your 24 millimeter. Along with your 15 millimeter, you can go right here. And what we're going to do is just kind of tighten this up while holding, because you want to make sure that's nice and snug. Let's go just a little more. Kind of like that. And if this does turn on you, it's okay. You can kind of just bring this back to where it's open like that. And then with that snug, what you can do next, just take your grease gun, just go ahead and shoot a little grease in here. Give it quite a few pumps, go ahead and fill it up. Just don't want to go too much to where it comes out. So you want it to be about probably like that. You can see I did a little too much. You can see it's starting to come out there, but that's all right. And then you can just take your rag, go ahead and wipe off any excess grease. You don't want that collecting a bunch of dirt. So next, go ahead and grab your wheel and tire, get that put back on. Grab your jack, and let's go ahead and jack it up and lower it. And then you go ahead and grab your torque wrench, and you're going to torque your lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. Okay guys, so that's it for the driver's side here. I'm going to go ahead and do the same to the passenger side. I'm not going to record that because it'll be the exact same procedure, and then I'll come back. Okay guys, so I went ahead and got the passenger side all done and buttoned back up and put back together. This is the one I pulled off the passenger side. You can see just kind of the same thing where it just flop around just like the driver's side. And the passenger side is exactly the same, no difference on how to remove and install them. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap up the video. Again, this was a 2012 Ford Focus. Went ahead and replaced the inner and the outer tie rods. Pretty simple job to do on these cars. Just need that special tool to remove the inner tie rod. If you're only doing this one time and you're not really a mechanic, your best bet is just to rent that tool from the auto parts store. It doesn't cost you anything. once you return it. So, or you can go my route, just go ahead and buy it from Harbor Freight, which is super cheap, and as you saw in the video, it worked just fine for me. So hopefully this video helps you out. The next thing you'll want to do also is get the alignment done. I'll probably do that within the next couple weeks because I'm doing some other work to this car. So check out those videos once I get them done. And if you haven't already, why don't you subscribe to the channel? Check out all my other videos. I got a bunch on this car alone. Trying to get it fixed up for one of my daughters to take over so she doesn't have any issues. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.